Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Talk to Satv, sponsored by Grand Palace Hotel and Resort, where we dive into the deep discussions of most pressing global and national issues. Tonight, after Eid al-Adha, I welcome you all to another important discussion of international relation, diplomacy and development. Tonight, we are honored to be joined by His Excellency, Dr. Rüdiger Lotz, Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Bangladesh. Ambassador Dr. Lotz is a seasoned diplomat, a legal scholar, and whose career has focused on international relation. He has more than 30 years of service in international diplomacy. Before coming to Bangladesh, he served in different diplomatic capacities, especially in Pakistan, South Africa, Turkey, Colombia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Siberia, Peru, and several departments of the German Foreign Office in Berlin. Germany and Bangladesh share a long-standing diplomatic relation, friendly relationship that is built on mutual respect, economic cooperation, sustainable development, and people-to-people ties, most importantly. Over the years, Germany has become one of the largest and most important development partners, as well as economic partners, trading partners in terms of ready-made garment products as well. So, Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining us today. It is a great pleasure to have you on my show, Talk to Satv, sponsored by Grand Palace Hotel and Resort. Your Excellency, Germany has consistently emphasized on importance of democratic governance, the rule of law, free and fair election, following the recent election and the formation of the new government. How do you assess the current state of Bangladesh-Germany relationship?
Thank you very much for inviting me. And well, I think the relation is pretty excellent. And it has been so since basically independence. And of course the character of the relation has changed. I think in the beginning it was a typical relation between a donor and the recipient. That has completely changed. I think we are really more on the level of a mutual dialogue about questions that are of concern for both of us. And of course it is, I always say it is quite something to see this country go back from autocracy to democracy.
True.
It's not something that we see that often in this world, unfortunately, nowadays, but Bangladesh has managed to do that. And I think that's a wonderful foundation for developing further our relations.
To be honest, Germany has been a key development partner since 1970s, contributing over $3.5 billion in Bangladesh. How do you assess the impact of this long-standing partnership? Because how do you characterize this evolution of Germany-Bangladesh development coordination, as you have already mentioned, that first the relationship was between the donor and its recipient. But how do you see this evolution?
I think it's really an evolution which has matured between two states that communicate on the same level. When you ask about the impact, I think impact is always a very concrete question. Impact is a flat embankment that is built. Impact is a young person who gets the necessary skills to find a job. Impact is a solar panel on a rooftop or so. And I think these are the real impacts that we have.
True.
And I think that's what the relation is about, to achieve concrete results.
Your Excellency, in previous interviews, you have suggested that Bangladesh's decision to purchasing Airbus aircraft from, have broader implications with its relationship in Europe. And Bangladesh has now moved forward in it. And do you see this as a positive change in strengthening the Bangladesh-EU and Germany relationship? And does it really can help to create a more favorable environment for trade cooperation, including Bangladesh's efforts to secure GSP plus benefits, as well as expand other economic opportunities with the EU?
I think it has moved forward in a remarkable way. I think these talks with Airbus are moving in the right direction, and that's enormously positive. Not because I'm the salesman for Airbus or so, But it's a signal to European investors and to European countries in general. So I think we are moving forward. And what is important about it is the overall environment. We think we really have to and want to deepen the relations, and deepen relations means more investment, more companies that do trade here. So, and they look at these things, and they look: do we have a level playing field with others, with other partners in the region? Is Bangladesh sending the signals that we want to attract European investment? And these steps are very important.
As you have mentioned as well, Bangladesh has several problems like corruptions, and you reiterated about the fact that to take measures against corruption and to ease the process of international investment. So new government has formed. So what's your advice for the new Bangladesh government, because to attract more European investment in Bangladesh?
Well, I'm always careful with unasked for advice or so. It's not my role to advise the government. They know very well what they are doing. From our perspective, and that's what I can say, what is important is it's about clear legal regulations, independent regulatory bodies. It's about the skill level, it's about infrastructure, it's about the fight against corruption. Many of these topics should be tackled. I have the impression that the government is fully aware and willing to do something to address these topics. And many of these topics are very typical for emerging countries. It's not that Bangladesh is an outlier here, so it's a very typical environment for an emerging country, and one has to address this. Bangladesh, if you see the macroeconomic data, the situation of the country, if you compare that with, say, South Korea in the 60s, if you compare it with Vietnam in the 90s, it's very, very similar.
True.
And that means it shows where this country, given the right political decisions on the economy, can stand in 20 years. I'm convinced Bangladesh in 20 years from now has a realistic chance to be among the top 20 of the world economy. But to do this, to achieve this, the right decisions have to be taken now.
True. You yourself is a labor law expert as well, and you know the importance of good labor regulations over here, and that also helps, because different tragedies have happened. So in terms of different buyers, so that must be a important step that government should take. Well, another question is, Germany's development cooperation is implemented through different institutions such as like KfW and GIZ. Could you explain how this institution complement each other in Bangladesh?
Yeah, well, GIZ is basically the technical cooperation. That means advising, providing capacity building and so on. While KfW then is the ones who finance it, is a financial part. So it's two complementing parts. If you think of an example, if GIZ develops a plan how to improve urban communities, that's GIZ's job, and KfW then are the ones who finance it. So that's a bit.
So in terms of prioritizing the key areas, how do you take the decisions, like which areas to prioritize in terms of development, especially in a country like Bangladesh?
Yeah, well, that's rather complex, also because there are so many areas which deserve attention. Well, it's coming together between the embassy and our government to set the priorities. It is a dialogue with our European partners, but first and foremost, I think it's a dialogue with people here, with the government here, but not only with the government, also with other political players, with NGOs, with civil society, to really understand where are the needs and the priorities of Bangladesh as a partner, and to bring that together.
Okay, it's like the role the embassy play in coordinating development policy and aligning it with Bangladesh national priorities.
Yeah, I think that sums it up very neatly. Yeah?
Well, during the war with Iran, you said in an interview that we need to highlight that we should look for alternative energy resources. So climate and energy are the key pillars of German cooperation. So how is Germany supporting Bangladesh's transition to renewable energy? And how could they support in Bangladesh's transition to renewable energy and energy efficiency?
Now, as you say, I think the recent situation, that crisis, has shown very clearly that the current setup of the energy sector is not sustainable.
True.
Yeah, the dependence on fossil fuel coming from one region in the world, the lack of storage capacity, and so on. So that's not sustainable. Renewables now stand, I think, when it comes to the primary energy mix, between 3 and 4%. That's not enough. That's not enough. The government has very ambitious goals to increase it, I think, to 30% by 2041. That's ambitious, but I think it's doable. It's doable, and what we can contribute to do this, we will do. And it's about rooftop solar panel. It's about energy efficiency and other measures to really increase the use of renewables. Obviously, hydropower is not really a big option for the country. Wind energy partly is, but has its problems. And solar, of course, needs space. So the solution, of course, is also a rooftop solar. Mm-hmm. And I think there's something where one can do much more still.
Because it's a densely populated country.
It's densely populated, yeah. It's densely populated. I always say this country has about double the size of our state of Bavaria. Bavaria is one of the federal states of Germany, very well known. Munich is the capital. Bangladesh has double the size. And Bavaria has 13 million people living there. And of course you have, what is it now, perhaps 180 million or so. Exactly. So it's densely populated, and that of course with that come other challenges.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to go on a short break on Talk to SATB, sponsored by Grand Palace Hotel and Resort. Please do come after the break, then we will discuss a lot more important things between Germany and Bangladesh relationship. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk to SATB, sponsored by Grand Palace Hotel and Resort. Before the break, His Excellency was talking about how densely populated this country is. I was listening to one of your interviews. There you say that Germany has a lot of demand for the young populations, especially the aged populations are increasing day by day over there. So there are opportunities for the young people. And you know how much densely populated this country and full of young people this country is. So how do you suggest those young peoples to equip themselves so that they could be eligible, so that they could be a good workforce in German markets?
I think if you see the general global economic development, we are increasingly coming to a knowledge economy, no matter where you are in the world. So it's very much about the skills that you have. So yes, it's about building skills. It's also about investment into the education sector. Mm-hmm. I mentioned earlier what happened in countries like South Korea or Vietnam. Mm-hmm. The development typically starts with a far bigger investment into education. Mm-hmm. And I think that is key. The whole question of building a skill set, and a skill set that is something that the labor market demands. As you said, Germany has the median age of Germans is about 45, 46 now. Here I think it's around 25, 26. Mm-hmm. So we have that aging population, and we need migration. We need migration, but we, of course, for obvious reasons, we do not want to see irregular migration. True. Which is a word that I prefer. I don't like the word illegal migration. It's irregular migration. For this, we have to bring our interests together with the interests of young people here. Yeah, it's. I mean, part of it, for example, is studying. We already have 7,000 students in Germany from Bangladesh, and that number goes up. I think Germany is an excellent location for studying, in particular engineering, but also other things. And this number will increase. So yeah, education, I think, is a key.
That's a very important point that you've mentioned, because Dad is highly respected in Bangladesh, especially the dance scholarship, and has played an important role in strengthening the educational and academic links between Germany and Bangladesh. Today, as we've mentioned, more than 7,000 Bangladeshi students are studying in Germany, and reflecting the growing appeal of German education between the Bangladeshi students. So Germany is also internationally recognized for its strong emphasis on vocational training, technical skills, and employment-oriented education. In this context, how could Germany support these programs in contributing to workforce development in Bangladesh, especially in emerging green industries? And how can Bangladesh benefit from the Germany's experience in developing a high skill and industry-related workforce?
Yeah, you mentioned our system of vocational training, and that's a very traditional system, but I think it's globally recognized because it's a system in which part of the week the apprentice spends basically in a school, part in the company, learning the practical skills, and you do that for 2.5 or 3 years. And of course, you can never copy from one country to the other a system completely. But I think I see that Bangladesh has a strong interest to take over elements of that system.
True.
I think one element is that these more blue-collar jobs, skills that are more linked to handiwork and so, typically need also a higher reputation.
True.
I feel there are too many people who go to some university studies and are not necessarily fit after that for the labor market, which is not their fault at all.
Exactly.
Not at all. But I think to elevate the recognition for people who work as a plumber, as an electrician, whatever, I think that's also a key element. But I think really to have a far more profound way to do this kind of vocational training.
Exactly, because you've been to different countries, especially the similar kinds of landscape, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and different parts of the world. Do you think that accepting this kind of strategy, like having a vocational training, as you have mentioned, and it could help Bangladesh in terms of making skill levels, because as you have mentioned, the population of this country is growing. It's not stopping. So is it really possible to adapting, because having the illustrious experience of 30 years and going to different countries and observing their development strategies, do you think that it could be a good strategy in terms of Bangladesh?
I think it's absolutely necessary, because over the next 20, 30 years, with the transformation of the economic system in an emerging country, there will be the need for skilled jobs. You need really the skilled laborers here, and for that, vocational training has to be addressed in a broader manner. Currently we have 3 projects in the country of vocational training. That's important, and for everyone who is in these institutions, that's wonderful. Of course, it's not a solution for the whole country. That is something we cannot provide. That has to come from here. And I think what is needed for this sector is a really holistic, comprehensive approach. And I think the government is thinking in this direction. We welcome that. And we welcome it also because it's also very important to attract investment. If you want to invest here, you also need the skilled labor that then can work in your company. And the other aspect that you mentioned before, if you want to have a better chance to get a job in our countries in Europe, of course, that's also a key prerequisite.
Exactly. Projects like livable and inclusive cities.
Yeah.
And that highlights Germany's focus on sustainable urbanization. Well, how is Germany, or how could Germany support, the Bangladesh's rapidly growing cities?
We have programs to do that with advising how to build urban structures. I mean, the cities are growing rapidly. And it's extremely difficult to follow that pace of development when it comes to governance or infrastructure. So we are supporting these programs because we have had that rapid change of cities ourselves after the Second World War, exactly. when we saw how important it is, for example, to build spaces for community use. How important it is to have a clear legal framework when it comes to property and things like that. So yeah, one thing is to build the infrastructure, but the other thing is to build institutions that really can provide services for the community. And we are in these programs to try to talk with everyone involved, and that's not only the government, it's also about local authorities, it's about really people living there. Our experience is, and you don't have to share that, but our experience is it's very good to have more responsibility on the ground level, on the grassroots level, to give municipalities influence, decision power, and not to concentrate too much decisions on the top.
That's wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to go on a short break. Do come back after the break because we were discussing that we need a holistic approach in terms of accepting a vocational training program and how it is indispensable for growing for this country. And we will talk much more after the break. Please do come back after the break. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk to Satv, sponsored by Grand Palace Hotel and Resort. Your Excellency, Germany has provided substantial support for Rohingya refugees and host communities. How does Germany balance humanitarian assistance with long-term development strategies?
I think that's an important question because the support for the Rohingya community needs, of course, these two aspects. It has to address the immediate humanitarian needs, but you need some long-term development strategy, which is, of course, extremely difficult. Bangladesh has taken in, it's now 1.2, 1.3 million people, and I think an amazing humanitarian gesture, and one really has to commend the country, the government, for doing this, because we know the situation in Myanmar, and it's not getting better. It's not getting better, but the solution, of course, is in Myanmar and not here. In the meantime, what to do with the people here, and I think one has to give them some form of perspective, and some form to get education, to provide for their own livelihood. I understand it's extremely difficult and a very sensitive issue, of course. But I think that's what is needed, because 1.2 million people without a perspective, many young men among them, is of course a potential source of also great insecurity, radicalization, and so on. But we will stay committed to the support. We have given a couple of hundred of millions of euro, either bilaterally or so through the UN and NGOs and others. we will continue to do so because the problem has not been solved.
Exactly. Germany is increasingly promoting innovation and digital transformation globally. Especially, are these emerging areas of cooperation in Bangladesh, such as green technology, AI, or smart infrastructures? So, how could Germany help Bangladesh in terms of these sectors?
Yeah, we have programs to do that, to help the green economy, and in the long run, I think it's very much about it's about technological transfer.
True.
But cooperation, governmental cooperation, can push for it, can help, can assist. But what really would be the game changer is increased investment from the business sector. I think that is something which then really brings new technologies and so to the country. And I see an increasing willingness, an increasing interest of our companies to have a closer look. But yes, green economy, obviously, that's a key topic, not only here.
Well, in the changing global order, how does Germany view its role in South Asia, especially in supporting sustainable and inclusive growth in a country like Bangladesh? Do you think the government is kind of discombobulated over here in terms of taking the decisions, or do you think that we need to be more precise in terms of policy?
I think the government understands completely the problems and try to address them. I'm very optimistic that the right steps will be taken. How do we see the region? This broader region in South Asia, Southeast Asia, is the growth region of the world. Europe is in many sectors economically saturated, I would say. We live on a very good level. We want to maintain that, but you will not see growth rates of 4 or 5% in Europe anymore, and for that matter, not in most Western countries. So, but you see them here, and you see an increased population. You see emerging countries, emerging middle classes. Imagine simply this country has a middle class already now of 40 million people. These are 40 million consumers, and that's of huge interest to any German company. So that's the economic aspect or so. This country will I'm absolutely convinced this country will continue to develop over the next 20, 25 years. And politically, it's so much an anchor of stability in the region now. A democratic country with peaceful relations to the neighbors, a contributor to the UN on a large scale. When you think of Blue Helmet missions, peacekeeping, so Bangladesh is also a partner in that sense, and yeah, we are focusing certainly more on Asia than we have done before, and we will continue to do so.
Well, how important are values like transparency, good governance, human rights, upholding human rights is shaping Germany's development goal in terms of bilateral relations? How does that play a role? And
I think it plays a huge role, and I think it doesn't play a huge role first and foremost because it is kind of a condition that we set. I think it's in the pure self-interest of a country like Bangladesh to have democratic structures, transparency, to fight against corruption, to have a functioning legal system with rule of law. So that's first and foremost the interest of Bangladesh itself. But yes, I think long-term development absolutely requires this. You cannot have a sustainable development without the participation of people, without really taking people with you, without stable rule of law. Any company that invests wants to see that if I have a legal problem here, where can I go, and so on. So I think it's an absolute precondition for successful development.
That's wonderful. What are your priorities for Germany-Bangladesh cooperation over the next decade, I guess?
I think it's about energy transition. I think that's a key element, because that's a global thing. Energy transition to cleaner energies, to renewable energies, and very closely linked with it is, of course, a fight against climate change. Bangladesh is a country which is extremely affected by it, but at the end of it, it's obviously a global issue. We are all in that together, and it's certainly, I would say, it's about the skill set, about vocational training, as we have discussed before, to improve the chances of young people here to find a job either here or in other places in the world in a rapidly changing labor market.
True. Your Excellency, you have an illustrious career for 30 years in international diplomacy. You have, how you have started, how you have been encouraged to promote international peace and brotherhood, how you have, ended up, being passionate about, in this career. If you want to share something about our viewers, our young generation, so that they could be inspired from your life, because this 30 illustrious career, 30 years of illustrious career, you've been to different places, different landscapes, you've seen transition and transformation as well. So if you could share from your life that how it has started and how you became passionate and how you have evolved in this career.
Well, my advice to younger people, and I'm by now in an age where younger people start to ask you for advice, I think it's very much try to follow your passions. And typically you know where your passions are. Of course you should be pragmatic, realistic, but if you are interested in a certain field, try to follow that. In my case, certainly it was relatively early, international relations. And I've never regretted that decision, because it makes you, or it gives you the chance to get to know so many different cultures, people, backgrounds, and really to get to know the world, and also to understand quite a bit of how political processes actually work. And that's not necessarily always how it's written in the textbooks, but that's something you see. And you can contribute something also, and I've tried to do that with the means that you have to develop and help and assist the host country. I was involved in some negotiations about conflict management, for example. That feels very satisfactory to do that.
That is back in which year?
That was mainly on the Balkans in southeastern Europe. I also spent 2 years in Afghanistan, where all our hopes, I think, have not been really achieved, but we tried. But I think that's what is making that profession so incredibly attractive.
True. You have been to one war-torn country, to a peaceful country, to different landscapes. If you can share any memory with us that still gives you the satisfaction, as you have mentioned about the Balkan days, and so do you have any memories? And if you compare that with Bangladeshi's landscape, do you find any any resemblance or any hope?
Now, one thing that comes to my mind, I was in Colombia and South Africa, and Colombia and South Africa were countries that equally have the challenge of transitional justice, coming out of a civil war, of apartheid in South Africa, so very unjust systems with suffering of many people. So this, how to address these issues and how to find the balance between prosecuting the responsible people, at the same time having a reconciliation in society. And these are sometimes conflicting goals. You have to find a balance in that, and I guess it's also something that need for internal reconciliation is something that's also, of course, plays a role here.
His Excellency, Dr. Rüdiger Lotz, it's wonderful talking with you. It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we were discussing about different aspects of Germany-Bangladesh relationship. He reiterated about the fact of continuing with its Bangladesh's journey and towards achieving rule of law, towards achieving growth, and towards achieving a society that ensures a good governance, because then it attracts investment, it attracts more European investment, and that is so much indispensable for the sustainable development and growth of Bangladesh. Bangladesh, as it continues with journey towards sustainable economic growth or climate resilience, renewable energy efficiency, and greater integration into the global community, cooperation between Bangladesh and Germany has become more important than ever. So it's wonderful that throughout the discussions that a lot of advice that came out, and we knew and we came to know a lot of experience from him, that how the countries like Bangladesh could go forward in terms of it could make strengths, and that could achieve the development and the sustainable growth that we want to achieve in the future. Until the next episode, stay well and do come back in the next week with a new guest. And until then, goodbye. Allah Hafiz.